Welcome back, Real Estate Rockstars. Today's show is all about listings, including the number one most important question to ask during your first conversation with a seller, how to lock down the actual appointment, what to mail, and I mean physically mail to a seller before your appointment, and step by step through the listing appointment itself. Our guest today is Davis Bartels out of Southern California, and he started in real estate back in 2009 working short sales. And as the market evolved, so did his business. And now he leads a team and personally focuses on listings exclusively. Last year, he closed $50 million in volume through listings. And plot twist for this show, at the end of the episode, Davis flips the script on me. I was not ready. I was trying to wrap up and he started interviewing me, asking me questions. So if you're curious what that was all about, stick around to the end and find out. And if you like the show, make sure that you share that by giving us a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, whatever podcasting platform you listen to. All right, rock stars, welcome Davis Bartels. Listings, that's your jam. So today we want to deep dive into listings, the nitty gritty, this step by step. So starting, where are your sellers coming from?
All right. So my whole business, and thank you for having me on here. I'm pumped. We were just talking. I love the show. I've been following it for a really long time. It's exciting to be on here. So anyways, we'll get that out of the way. You're amazing, Shelby. So I told you I wouldn't do it. I did. Anyways, as far as where my clients come from, so I'm mostly a sphere guy. So everything that I do is based around my sphere. But I don't only focus on my sphere. My goal is to grow my sphere. So that means that I have to reach outside of my sphere. So really the bulk of my business does come inside of it. But meanwhile, I'm doing the farming, I'm doing the online leads, trying to get the referrals. And my goal is that over time, I want to put as many people as I possibly can into this sphere and grow that, because with time, eventually I'm going to be at a place where that circle is big enough that I just live in here and I don't have to talk to anyone out here anymore. And I'm not there yet, but that is the game plan.
Okay. And once you pull them into your atmosphere, then you are following up in what manner?
Once you get into the ether, it's hard to get out. So that is my goal. Is I want to be from everywhere. And so just to give you an idea, I think that us as brokers, as agents, the number one thing is to embody the role of being an agent, of being a realtor. And by that, I don't mean like doing TikTok dances or going on Instagram and some of the stuff I see on there, just like, it's disappointing. However, because, you got to remember, we're professionals, right? Like before anything else, we're professionals in finance. But anyways, I digress. What I do is I really hit them from all angles. So my overall objective is that I don't want to be known as Davis, right? Like I love my family and I love sports, but I don't want to be like Davis, the sports guy, or Davis, the guy that like is at the park with his kids. Like I want to be Davis, the real estate guy. So before anything else, like I want to create that mindset in people that when they see me, I don't have to talk about real estate. Just seeing me or seeing something that involves me, real estate comes to their mind, right? And so how do I do that? Well, part of that is, it's a mindset, right? So like my mindset is focused around real estate. And it really is a part of the fabric of who I am as an individual. But as far as what I'm doing in order to stay in touch with these people is really from all angles. So of course, social media, of course, mail. We're doing 2 pieces of mail a month. We're doing emails. I am a little bit selective with emails. And the reason is because people are so protective over emails. It's so funny. I get more responses to emails of people that say, I don't want to get emails or unsubscribe. But you could call people, text people, show up at their front door, and they don't respond negatively about it. But emails, some reason. And then we're doing 3 events a year. And then one of the most important thing is just face-to-face, getting face-to-face with people, getting coffees, being out in the community, having lunches with people, inviting people over to your house for dinner. And between really like those 5 things, that is how we nurture people, because when someone thinks real estate, you want to be the first person that pops in their head, so that when they pick up the phone to talk to a professional about it, there's not even a question. You're the guy on the other end of the line.
So now they've decided they want to sell and they're calling you. And can you walk us through that initial conversation, what you do then, your listing appointment, all of those little details and steps?
Okay, great. I love it. See, I told you you're good at asking the right questions, because this is the perfect question and I have the perfect answer. So, so the first thing that I do is I meet them, and there's no exact script. There's a general framework that we follow. And I'm going to give a shout out to Ninja, and I'm going to give a shout out to Terry Johnson, who's an incredible Ninja coach. So if you ever get involved with Ninja, they do installations. They also have a book. It's all founded upon the book. It's Larry Kendall's book. It's an amazing program. I've done the installation. I've done coaching. I've done workshops with them. And Terry is just my person. And I hope she listens to this. I'm going to send it to her, so she has to listen to it.
Dude, you got to. Yeah.
But anyways, a lot of this is structured around Ninja as well. So just to give you an idea. But ultimately, the way that I do it is I have a phone conversation. So that depends on whether they call me, I call them, I see them somewhere, they're referral. It all depends. But the goal is I just want to have a conversation with them. My goal, anytime that I have any interaction with someone, no matter how I'm trying to help them, I just want to build a rapport with them. I want to have a connection with them. Because what I tell all the agents that I work with on my team is that, if they like you, they'll trust you. And if they trust you, they'll use you. And I didn't come up with that. It's a pretty simple concept that a lot of people use however they explain it. But the bottom line is our job is to build a rapport, and then you can go from there. But to get into the real framework of where we go with listings from there, it's about the first step is we need to have a time, and it could be the initial phone call, but you need to ask the people, do you have 15 minutes to go over some questions that I have for you? And so the first thing that we do is we give them an interview, right? And so I actually have questions that I ask them, and it's 2 pages of questions. I ask for about 15 minutes. It can take about 15 minutes. I've had them last 45 minutes because it depends on the seller or the prospect on the other end of the line and how in-depth they want to get on that, okay? So then and just to give you something about that, the reason that we do that is a couple of things. What's that?
Like, dude, I want to know, you have 2 pages of questions. And I'm not saying you need to go through every question, but I want to know exactly kind of what you ask, more details.
Right. So that's a great question. So when you're working for someone, in my opinion, your first goal should always be to determine what's important to them and determine what their goals are. Or let's just say your first job is to determine what their goals are. The rest of your job is to just help them get there. You have 2 jobs when you're working for somebody. Figure out what they want, help them get there. Right. So this is step 1. This is what we figure out what they want. For me, I am what you would call, in my own person, is my personality is like a power personality. I'm forward. I'm not an introvert. I want to talk. I want to talk over you. I want to talk about me. I want to tell you what's important to me. I don't want to listen. That's just the way that I am. But fortunately, I've come to learn that that's who I am. So I have to actively work against overpowering and talk, and I need to learn to listen. So one of the things that it does is it forces me to make it about them, because none of this is about me. And what so many agents in this business do, in my opinion, is they go to a listing presentation. It's not a presentation, it's a consultation. They go to a listing presentation or consultation, and they say to them, I'm great. This is what I'm going to do for you. This is why I'm great. This is how many homes I've sold. This is why you're going to love working with me. And the seller doesn't hear you. All they hear is me. Let me tell you how great I am and why you should hire me, right? And that's not what it's about. What it's about is them. And so once we're able to diagnose what's going on with them, once we're able to diagnose what's important to them, then we understand best how to approach them in a consultation in order to give them what they're really looking for. Because we could talk about 100 different things and maybe only 2 of those are important to them. So why don't we just talk about the 2? And doing a diagnosis allows you to understand what those 2 things are. So let's just cut to the chase.
What is one or 2 things that are most important to sellers when you talk to them?
Most amount of money. That's like, oh, I don't even have to think about it. Most amount of money. Everyone wants the most amount of money. But that almost just goes without being said, right? One of the questions, and I'll upload the questions for you too, if you'd like them. I do that twice. So the pre-listing questionnaire, we've only gotten to step 1. This is maybe the first, if not the second conversation I'm having with somebody is these questions. And one of the questions is if you could wave a magic wand, what would this process look like for you? And that's like an open-ended question because part of what you're doing with this is you're giving them the floor, right? You're letting them tell, and it could be money. It could be, I want to do it fast because I want to move to, I live in California, so everyone's leaving. I want to get to Arizona fast enough to be with my grandkids during the summer before they start school. It could be a number of things, but you're giving them a floor to lead to whatever is important to them. Right. And so it's usually, but generally speaking, it's time and money unless somebody has had some sort of horror story or they've worked with an agent that, it doesn't have integrity or makes us as a group look bad. And then they will tell you, I want someone who's honest. I want someone who's going to work for me. I want someone who communicate those types of things. Sometimes they'll get into that type of stuff too.
Okay, perfect. So you've had this person came to you and they're like, I want to sell. And you've asked them, do you have 15 minutes to go over some questions? And the intent of those questions is to identify what they want, which is normally time and or money related, a combo. And then once you have that information and, the rest of the time you are trying to figure out how best to help meet those goals. But what happens after that 15-minute, what is next?
Set the appointment. That's the last piece of it is setting the appointment. But a big part of this is that not only are you asking these questions and diagnosing, but along the way, you're setting expectations. So one of the things that when people work with me that they're going to experience is that they're going to know what's happening before it happens, and they're going to know what to expect, and they're never going to be caught off guard. Because that's what happens is when their expectations are higher than what the results are, or they're caught off guard. And that's when you really get yourself in hot water. If you want to have happy clients, successful relationships, referrals, then you're going to deliver them experience that's educational and is going to not catch them off guard or have any surprises along the way. So all that to say is that we're going to set an appointment and then I'm going to tell them what to expect next, which would you like me to go into the next step?
I want as much details as possible. So if you have any common expectations that you set with people, so that way they know what's happening and it's never caught off guard, would love that. And then, yeah, dude, Davis, we're going nitty gritty into this thing. I want to know.
So it's all about listings. I don't care about anything else. If I'm going to spend my money, time, effort, blood, sweat, tears, it doesn't matter. The thing that I'm going to invest all of that into is listings. And why? Because listings are the core, the keystone, the cornerstone of this business. And without listings, what the saying goes, you got to list you got to list to last, I think is what it is. I don't know. It's old, way before my time. But it's true because if you have the listings, you have the power and you control the market. And what they say is true is that your next deal should be embedded in your current deal or your current listing. Because if you have listings, people are calling you, you've got a sign in the yard, you're online. It's just, it absolutely is true. So everything we do is about getting the listing.
What are some of the expectations that in that first conversation that you try to plant the seeds for before the appointment?
Right. So I set the appointment and then I let them know that we are going to have, so I confirm, part of the questions is I confirm where they live, that they're not an absentee. And assuming that they're not an absentee, then I let them know that I'm going to be having a courier deliver a package to their house prior to our meeting, right? And it sounds really fancy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you can have Uber do it. Like I happen to have an assistant that will do it, or a team member, what have you. But I mean, you can call Uber. So most people don't know, but you can call Uber or like text Uber, whatever app Uber, and they'll make deliveries for you. So you can give them the package and say, deliver us this to 123 Main Street. And instead of delivering you there, they'll deliver the package and drop it off at the door for you. Okay, so you can do, very so cool. I set the expectation. I let them know. So, hey, we have our appointment on Thursday, February 1st, and I'm really looking forward to meeting with you. Prior to that, I'm going to have a package delivered to you, a courier to your door with some pre-listing information. It's going to have a lot of information about the property, about the comps. It's going to have information about us and what you should expect when working with us. In addition to, we'll have a full stack of all sample documents that you should expect to see during the process of selling your home. And those are all watermarked California Association of Realtor forms that they would have to complete during the series of the transaction. Okay. And then I let them know that in addition to that, prior to us meeting, I will also be sending you a pre-listing email. And that email will go over some of the similar things, but it will also include an interactive version of the comparables for your home that we will review when we get there. So during our listing presentation, depending on the listing, depending on the circumstances, I may set a 2-step process. There's a 1-step process and there's a 2-step process. And we can get into that. There's a lot going on, but I'm telling you, it's a game changer. And
I'm here for it.
Pretty simple.
I'll keep it up, man. We're doing it.
Right. So you're with me. So we do the pre-listing interview. Then we're currying our pre-listing package. We're sending our pre-listing email. And then the next step is we are at the initial listing appointment, right?
Which, before we go to the appointment.
What's that?
Before we go to the appointment, can I ask some questions real quick?
Let's go.
Okay. The very fancy courier delivery, you said has information on the property, comps, on you guys, what to expect, and sample documents. For the comps, are you running like a full CMA? Are these just like general comps? Like how much legwork, and are you doing it? Is it something your listing coordinator is doing? What does that piece look like?
Right. So no, I don't have my listing coordinator do the comps. I do the comps because I need to know the comps and I need to understand the comps. And because sellers know that house better than you do. You could be the top guy. I mean, I could sell a house in a neighborhood that I've sold 50 houses in, and that seller's probably a lot of times going to know the comps as well as me. So I need to be versed on it. And most homes that I go list, I haven't sold 50 homes in that neighborhood. So I need to know, certainly not in the last year. So I'm just up to speed on the comp. So I need to be up to speed on the comp. So I want to do it myself. And, I'm that guy that if I want it done a certain way. So for that, I do it myself. My listing coordinator does prep the pre-listing package. She, there's a lot of pieces of that she does. But for the comps itself, I do that myself.
And it's not a full CMA. It's just, this is what's sold in your neighborhood in the past X amount of time.
So my pre-listing what is dropped at the property is, about 3/4 of an inch thick, maybe an inch thick. There's a lot of paper in there. So the meat of it, the contracts, there's a lot. We leave them in Notepad. But the other major piece is our actual, what I would call a listing book. And within that listing book, it's about 45 pages. And that 45 pages includes information about me, information about my company, information about what you should expect from working with us. And it has like kind of a services offered there's a lot, with that. It talks about pricing. There's past client reviews in there. There's a lot going on in that package. And that's ultimately what I am consulting with them on when I meet them, is I'm going over that package with them. But I'm giving them an opportunity to look at that before I meet them, because it's like people say, don't judge a book by its cover. Well, guess what? Before you walk in that door, they've already got a huge opinion of you. So my job is that before I walk in that door, it should be my job to lose, right? Because if I go through all the steps properly, they already like me, they already trust me, they already think I'm really good at what I'm doing, they already feel that I'm going to get them top dollar. All I have to do is just close the door on that, and it's done, right? Because if you do all those things, you look like no one else is doing it. I can guarantee it. I guarantee you, if they set 10 appointments, no one else is doing everything else all the things that I'm doing.
Dude, I'm saying when you were like, it's like 40 pages, I was like, yeah, that's 40 more than, than most people are doing. And,
all right, so I've talked to agents, and I'm like, oh, like, what's in your listing package? And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, like, what do you go to listing appointments with? And they say, well, I go with the comps. What are you talking? They like print out a single page comps and show up to the house, and they're like, here I am. And I'm like, wait, what? That's just not me. That's not who I am. I mean, I know agents that do well with that. That's just not who I am. And I can rap with the best of them. I can talk about whatever you want to talk about, but it's just not that's not my jam.
Well, I mean, and that's such an important part of it. It's like understanding who you are and really who you want to be, because you're totally right. There's like your style, which is like hyper prepared, very, impressive. And then I actually just talked to someone before who's like, I just roll up, like I'm the funny guy on Instagram, and depending on the client and depending on who you want to be in the industry, it's one of those cool things with real estate. You get to choose your adventure. So,
oh yeah. So my edge is like, I'm analytical. I pay attention to the numbers. I mean, I have a degree in economics. I'm not like just show up and, make them love me. I mean, that's a part of it, is you want to build that relationship. But for me, I'm going to come correct. And I view my job as, I'm in the finance industry. I'm, dealing with huge assets and people's money. And I want to work with investors, and I want to have repeat clients, and I want to be polished. And that's just, the way, I don't show up in a suit and tie, obviously, but, that's the image that I want to give off, because, the houses that we're selling are over $1 million. It's not, this isn't like small potatoes to people.
Yeah. And listeners, if you guys are like sweating and freaking out a little bit, not freaking out, but like, oh my God, that's a lot. Well, don't worry, because Davis provided us a tool for our toolbox. It's his pre-listing email, and also has some notes at the top about what he includes in his pre-listing package. So you know the drill. Go to realestaterockstarsnetwork.com and click the toolbox for your free tool. Okay, Davis. So we have our courier package. We have this pre-listing email that went out, and now you are showing up at the house for, meeting with the client. Can you like walk us through everything? You park the car, then what?
Okay, so don't park in the driveway.
See, these are good tips, like totally. And how early do you show up? 5 minutes early, or do you show up right on time? Like, what's the whole, and do you text them a confirmation before? Do you call them? Like, what is your process?
Yeah. So if I set the appointment today and it's for tomorrow, I'm not confirming with them. If I set the appointment today and so I have an appointment on Tuesday next week in LA that we set 2 weeks ago, I'm going to confirm with them the day before. But if it's, a day or two later, I'm not going to confirm. I'm just going to show up. And, in my confirmation, by the way, just for the record, is not, hey, we have an appointment tomorrow at 1:00. Are you still good with that? Right? Like, this is basic stuff, but let's be clear. It's, hey, Shelby, I'm really looking forward to our appointment tomorrow at 1:00. I'll see you there. And that's it.
Yeah. Don't give them the chance to back out.
No, because they
no
won't.
Opportunity. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And mind you, I go on a lot of cold appointments. I go on a lot of I go on come and list me's too. Don't get me wrong, but I do handle them all the same, because I always want to come correct to people.
Okay, right? Perfect. So you confirm or not, you roll up.
I roll up. That's the key. So it's all about mindset is important, and I'm not going to get too far in the mindset, because I'm going to really focus on the meat and potatoes. But a lot of people have a routine of what they do. I make sure that, for me, what's most important is that I feel prepared and I'm on my toes. When I set the appointment, what is happening is they have an expectation of whether it's a 1-step or 2-step process. And so just to talk about that a little bit, what's really cool about the 1 or 2-step process. So let me ask you a question. You're a practicing agent, Shelby. I'm a seller. I call you and I say, hey, I'm meeting with 5 agents. I'm meeting with them between, today's Wednesday. I'm meeting with them between today and Saturday. When do you want to set your appointment with me?
That's a great question. Okay, so schools of thought here. I'm like, man, if I'm first, I'm going to go in there and freaking crush it and be like, all right, lock it in. You don't need to see anyone else. Or if there's the other school of thought where it's like, you want to go last because then you can make that final impression and they won't even remember the first person you talked to.
Right.
What, Davis, what's your play?
So what about the third school of thought?
Oh,
why can't you do both?
Okay.
Why can't you be first and last?
If you're not first, you're last. Someone said that.
So check it out. So if you're first, the goal of being first is you're setting the bar high. Okay. And the goal of being first is, I've been first and I've been able to get people to sign and cancel all of their other appointments. So that's the upside of being first. The downside is if they're the type of person that makes a commitment and keeps it, if they have 4 appointments scheduled, they're going to go through all of their appointments. And if you're first, they are not going to sign with you. The last person probably has the highest ability to sign with them because they might just be fatigued and done and just say, okay, this guy's good, sign me up. I don't want to deal with anything else. Or at that point, they just know that the door is closed on all the other ones. So they just go with that guy and then they're like, okay, I'll just call the rest and tell them no. So there's really like pros and cons depending on the person, depending on whether you're first or last. But if you can be first and last, then you get the best of both worlds. And that's how we do it with the 2-step process. And the way that we explain it to them is we let them know that, I can go online and I can pull comps, but for me to just go online and pull comps before I ever meet you, ever see your house, and then I come there and I just throw out a value at you, what I really want to do is I want to come meet you and I want to meet the house. I want to walk the house. I'm going to take some photos. We're going to really dive deep into this. And then I'm going to go back to my office and do serious research on your home. And then I'm going to come back with an educated valuation for your home and a marketing strategy. And we're going to meet for a second time and go over all of that. Do you think that would be helpful to you? And everyone's like, oh man, this guy's going to go back and like get all analytical about my house and give me a full custom tailor-made marketing strategy. Heck yeah, that sounds helpful. So now I have the first appointment because I want to be first. If they call me on Monday, I'm going tomorrow. But I'm also going to ask them when their last appointment is. And I'm going to say, well, how about this? I'm going to come back on Friday and let's have our follow-up appointment. And then at that appointment, they have no reservations. They've already met with everyone. They've already heard everything that they've heard. They haven't signed with anyone else. Because if they're not willing, if they're the type of person that has a commitment to see everything that's in front of them before they make a decision, then they're going to hold out for your last appointment. So you get best of both worlds with that strategy.
Dope. I love it.
Cool, right?
Yeah.
And that's a little newer. I only started doing that like a couple of years ago. And that's really a game changer that's been a game changer for me.
Dude, perfect. Okay, I think we were rolling up and we were deciding if we're coming. Are you coming early or right on time? What's your strategy for that?
Okay, yeah. So we have the sidebar. So
bring it back.
To me, I had a mentor that said, what is it? 5 minutes early is on time is late, and late is unacceptable. So realtors were notorious for being, in my opinion, late and irresponsible. So please don't be late to a listing appointment. And if you're going to be late, don't text them for your 1:00 appointment at 1:02 and say you're going to be late. If there's something that happens and you're late, text them at noon and say, hey, I'm going to be a few minutes late, right? Show some responsibility and accountability because you're setting the tone, right? Like we just did all these things that we had to do in order to set the tone in one direction. And then I'll just show up late. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be on time, and I'm probably going to be a few minutes early.
Okay. So you are right on time or a couple minutes early, and you have parked and you walk up. Let's go through, you knock on the door and all of that.
Okay. So I knock on the door, and essentially that's like, use what you already know about them, be complimentary of the house, be likable. And like, this is the type of stuff, this is a whole different course on listing and relationships and psychology behind real estate. Really the crux of it for me is when I'm in a listing presentation is just get to know them, like them. And then I have a second set of questions that I go through them, and I have them by the way, I have a sheet. This is another 2-page questionnaire that I go over with them, and I let them know, hey, Shelby, do you mind if I take notes while I ask you some questions? Right. And what does that do? So it's more than just giving them the courtesy of letting them know that I'm not writing stuff down about what I have to do afterwards. I'm writing stuff down in relation to our conversation, because this is so important to me that I want to write it down in case I need to reference it. Right. If I'm asking you questions and I'm just hoping I remember it, well, I clearly care a lot more if I'm writing notes. So I make it very, like, obviously, if I'm writing notes, they can tell that, but I make it clear to make a point to them that I'm going to be writing notes so that they know that I care, so that it really sends the concept home for them. Right. So I let them know I'm going to take notes, and then I go through that. And there's 2 different ways to do it, depending on your comfort level, depending on the seller, depending on the type of home. You might go through the house, and as you walk through the house, you will start asking those questions, because part of them are about the property and about the circumstances of the home. But just for the record, the first thing that I do when I go to a house is I want to tour the home with them. I don't want to sit down first. I want to tour the home first. And during the tour, that's your opportunity to build rapport, because you're walking their house. They're telling you what they like about the house. They're telling you what they don't like about it. You're telling them, and guess what? You get to see everything on their walls. You get to see everything that they're into. If they're a Dodgers fan, there's going to be Dodgers memorabilia on the walls or on their office space. And if they have kids, you're going to see their kid. All these things that are possible or things that are possibilities that you can relate to, you're going to see those right in front of you. And then you have the opportunity to say, I can talk to him about baseball. I can talk to him about my kids. I can talk to him about this, that, and the other. All opportunities to build a rapport right in front of you.
What are you writing on? Are you bringing like a clipboard and you have your printout, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I'm like a solar salesman with my notepad.
Dude, yeah, there it is.
So sometimes, so Terry, who I mentioned, master ninja coach, incredible woman to boot. She uses, what's it called? What's the
iPad?
I know what it's called, but I'm forgetting. It's like an iPad, but it has a stylus and you can write notes on it, like Wordable,
it's digital, but with a pen.
I can't remember the name of it, but I came really close to buying one. But I bring an iPad to my consultations too. So I didn't want to have like too many computers with me. So yeah, I just have a notepad that's all set up with the questions and all the paperwork that I need, and then I have my iPad. So I'm actually writing this on paper. And there was a time in my life when I used to sign listing contracts on iPads, do all my notes on iPads, but I stopped doing it because I had a time where I went to a listing appointment, I got the contract signed on my iPad, and it washed the signatures off of it, and then I had to go back and get signatures with a pen. So I didn't like that. So I sign and do a lot of things with a pen, even though I'm not a baby boomer.
Yeah, I was like, how old are you? No, just kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you taking photos as you go?
So it just depends. It's one of those things. If the house is, so part of my presentation to them is that I offer a coming soon rollout, and I offer to them that, we're going to hit the ground running with your house. We have 2 opportunities to sell it during our coming soon period, but also during our, on the MLS, our traditional period in which we would sell a house. So if I was going to do that, then I would take a photo. If I think that there's somebody who would benefit from seeing the house in my database or otherwise, then I take photos of the house. If it's like a fixer, then I'll take photos of the house because I'll have a lot of people that want to see it. If it's like
that's what I was thinking. Like I used to take photos of anything that I would want recommendations for repairs, you know, just so I could remember like specifically the water stain on the ceiling or, you know, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, and it just depends. I mean, if they call me and they're like, I'm in foreclosure and I need to sell, I'm taking pictures. I'm trying to sell it when I walk out the front door. I mean, I'll probably already have people on the hook before I even see the house that want to see it, right? If there's something where it's time is of the essence, yeah, I'll take pictures. Or if I feel that it would go over well or any particular reason, yes, I am, but not 100% of the time. I would say about half the time I'm taking photos.
Okay, so you've showed up, you've done your pleasantries, you've gone on the tour and built rapport, noticed anything that you connect on. And at this point, the tour is complete. Now what?
Right. So then we're going to sit down and we're going to sit down at a table. And I know a lot of people say that their consultations are 30 minutes, an hour. I mean, I've had consultations in the last 3 hours, and that's not an exaggeration. In my calendar, I blocked 2 hours for a consultation, for an initial listing consultation. And it just depends. Sometimes they take, I mean, I've had them where they don't go well at all and they take 20 minutes. And I've had ones that literally take over 3 hours because people are long-winded and I can be long-winded too. So I sit down and then at that point, then I jump into it. And then I will jump into it. I do not just jump into comps. I tell them I have a whole process that I go through as crazy, right? After everything I've told you, can you imagine that I have like a whole process that I go through when I sit down with them? and I hit all those high points. And it's really like, I mean, I could kind of give it to you in my sleep now.
Give like at least like wave top. So we know, cause you know, when you're like jump right into it, I know there's people who are like, jump right into what? Like, what's he actually doing? You know?
Right. So I warm it up. So when I sit down, and mind you, a lot of people want to jump right into comps and they want to jump right into what's your commission.
Totally.
And I will tell you this, probably 70% of the appointments that I do, I get to the end of it and we haven't talked about commission one time. And then I will bring up commission or they'll say, by the way, what do you charge? By the time that we get to fee, I should have established so much credibility and so much value that fee is but a nuance to the circumstance and that they're willing to pay for what I want to. I'm not going to lead with that, right? The other thing is that I do not want price and I do not want commission to be a determining factor of why they work with me. By the time we talk about commission and we talk about price, they should already decide that they want to work with me. Because how many times have you as an agent, Shelby, not hit the price that they wanted to? Or you can miss high too. People will not hire you because you're too high. I mean, usually it's the other way around, but they can be because you're too low. They can be because you're using different data. It could be because your commission's too high, et cetera. And I came up in this business in a discount brokerage, just so you know. And so I've missed deals with low commission. Just for the record, I'm not a discount broker anymore, as you could probably tell by listening to me, for those of you who are passing your judgment in the moment. So, but the bottom line is that like, I want them to make their decision based on what I'm telling them, not those details. And I have given myself a huge opportunity to do that. And if I can't do it by then, I'm just not going to be able to do it. Does that make sense?
It does. And so when you are sitting down, is it an overview of like the listing process?
Do you like how I answer questions without answering them? So,
dude, that's what I'm here for. I'm literally like, all I do is like take the guest and I bring it back. I'm like, we can do this. So, bring it back.
Listen, I know who I am. Okay. So, so what I do is initially then I'll explain to them about who my company is. I work with an independent, technically a boutique brokerage, here in Southern California. We have 13 offices and about 1,200 agents, but it is, I'm not with a Keller Williams, Remax, EXP, anything like that. And I will explain to them about me. I'll explain to them about my team, the structure of my team. I'll explain to them who I am, a little bit about my background. This is all very quick, by the way. And then I will explain to them about my past sales. I'll explain to them. And then I have a whole sheet on how many homes I've sold, how quickly I've sold them, how much faster I sell them against what the market data is, which in 2023 was 450% faster than the home sold on the MLS. I'll show average what price my home sell for above asking price versus what the percentage of list price is that my homes are sold at versus what the market is and how much better mine is. So I'm showing them a comparison of all that. And then I jump into services offered. And then I'm getting into, what we're doing for marketing, why what we do is different. We're talking about the coming soon rollout. We're talking about photography. And I'm not just saying, hey, I'm going to throw a drone up in the air and take photos. I'm going to tell them that homes that have drone photography are 68% more likely to sell, right? Like I'm going to give them stats like that. And then I'm going to show them the difference between professionally shot and edited twilight photos versus, John's iPhone photos, right? That he posted in the MLS and
he's in the mirror shot in the bathroom. He's like with the arm. You know what I'm talking about?
Don't get me started. So yeah, we're going to go through all of that. I'm going to explain. I have like analogies and stuff that I do. And that's again, a different conversation, but that's ultimately what I get into. And while I'm going through that presentation, I'm stopping and I'm giving them a chance to talk and I'm giving them a chance to ask questions. And I'm saying, does that make sense to you? Hey, before we move on, do you have any questions about what we've gone over? And read the room, know your audience, right? If they want to say something, let them say, because there's, a study, I don't know what it is exactly, but it says if you've been talking for over 60 seconds, they're like 1,000% likely to have tuned out already. So try to keep it minimal and get engagement. I'm asking them questions. You know what I mean? So when we talk about why it's important to sell a house fast, I might ask a question like, if you go see a house as a buyer and it's been on the market for 60 days, are you going to offer full price? No. Well, what are you going to offer? Well, I'm definitely going to offer under asking price. Well, why are you going to do that? Right. So like I'm going to engage with them and I'm going to put them in the buyer's shoes, for example, and do that just to keep them in the conversation. Because it's not a presentation. It's a consultation. And that includes their involvement. Does that make sense?
Shut up. I think you're doing it to me. I'm like, it's been 60 seconds, Davis. I stopped listening. Just kidding. Okay. So at this point, we have gone over about you, stats, past sales. Like I have, the whole list of what you just went over. Now, do you bring up the comps and like the seller net sheet or not yet?
So I go into the comps from there, and then I have I use Cloud CMA for comps, and I have it interactive on my iPad, and I'll start going through. We're looking at photos, we're explaining it, we're diving into it, and we're really diving into the comps together because it's not a one-line CMA printout of just data. We're looking at photos, we're swiping. We're looking at the size. We're looking at when it was sold because it's all right there on my iPad and interactive that they can click through it with me and really get involved on it. And I do these and they're like, oh, wait, go back. I want to see that. And they're, oh, yeah, I know that. Go to the backyard. I'll show you. That one had a really nice pool, right? So we're involved doing this together.
Okay, perfect. And together, do you determine price at this point, or is this like I'm going to go back and like keep going?
Yeah. So then it's again like you got to, if you want to be good at this business, you got to have some finesse, you got to have some swagger, you got to be able to read the room. And these are, at least in the way that I do it, I can't tell you like step one happens and then step two happens. You gotta be able to handle it. It takes experience. After you've done it 100 times, you have 100 examples of how to either do it or how to not do it, right? And I've had a ton of opportunities to do that. So it's just one of those things that you're going to learn. But ultimately, the antithesis of it is that you are going to tell them, I want to take all the information that I have and I want to go back to my office and I want to do a deep dive and really get into the data and into, the MLS and take a look at your property and the photo, maybe I took the photos of your property so that I can come back with a clear analysis of pricing and give you a well-defined, tailor-made strategy to list your home on the MLS. And then that gives me the opportunity to close too, right? At the second appointments after they've met with everybody else.
Step 2, the 2-step.
Right. The second step process. So again, it just depends, but you also got to remember, like, I've already asked them what their house is worth. So one of the first questions I ask them one of the questions I ask them on the pre-listing email is, what do you think your house is worth? I don't just jump to that. There's a bunch of questions that lead into that also give me insight, because sometimes people say, well, you're the expert, I want you to tell me that. But they've answered a bunch of questions that tell me their opinion about the house already. So I'm able to take that, and then based on that, I can overlay it with the data and understand, like, these are the type of people that are going to want top of market value. These are the type of people that are going to want to sell it fast and list it on the aggressive side. And I can use that, into my advantage when I'm really trying to come up with a price. Now, if they're in a hurry, I will give them a price on the spot. I'm not scared to do that. And sometimes it's not necessary. If it's somebody, they're a past client that I've worked with before, I'm gonna work with them on the spot, because the reality is, it's like, they're gonna sign with me either way because they know how I work and they know who I am and what to expect. So it's a non-issue. I don't need to set a second appointment. That's more for cold or like warmish appointments, or people that are interviewing multiple agents to do a 2-step process. So I will give them a number there in some circumstances.
Do you go over cost to expect in regard to, and I'm not familiar with your market at all, but potentially, buyer concessions or repairs, right, or, any sort of upfront expectations for things that will be unpleasant down the road?
Sure. So no, not really. There's a page in my 45-page-ish package that talks about seller expenses. It goes over there's 2 sections. It's buyer expenses and seller expenses. This is the thing, like, if I covered everything, that, 2-hour time that I block out that sometimes goes over, I could literally spend all day there. And there are times, and then I get out of that appointment and I have 70 calls to return. So I try to keep them a little short. So I don't go over all that stuff. If they want to know, I go over it with them. Okay. But I do explain to them, I show them things like, I track every single person who ever calls on your house. Even if they don't come and see it, there's a note, and I show them an example of previous homes that I've sold. And then I ask them the question, I say, so if your house falls at escrow, then what do you think I do? And they say, well, you probably go to that list that you have of every person that's ever seen. And I say, yeah, we go through and we call every single person who's ever called about the house and tell them that they get a second chance at offering on your great home that fell out of escrow at no result of your own. So
yeah, questions
at no fault of yours. Sorry, rather.
Dude, words are hard. Yeah, questions are it. It's totally like, what is it? Selling is not telling, it's asking. So
100%. And I'm a teller, so I have to actively work to ask questions and make it about them, because again, I know who I am and I have to step outside of that. You have to understand your strengths, in my opinion, and you have to understand your weaknesses. And that is a weakness of mine. And I actively work to be better at it and that's what this Ninja program helps me do in a lot of ways.
Okay. For the listing appointment, what did we miss? What did we not cover?
So there's follow-up too. So that's not so it's not done. So let's say I go on 1 appointment, I go on 2 appointment anyways, then I follow up. So a lot of times it's like, hey, I'm moving out of state. Well, hey, I got a great out-of-state mover. Can I connect you with my out-of-state mover? Or would it be helpful if I connected you with my out-of-state mover? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'm making notes of what I'm going to do when I leave. A lot of times I won't bring a net sheet. And here's why, is because I want a reason to follow up with them. And a net sheet is a great reason to do it. So a lot of times I'm going to send it. Almost every time there's a referral involved, and then there's a net sheet. And then sometimes there's other things involved with it too. So maybe I'm going to send it to an investor and get back to them about maybe setting up a showing for their house or whatever. So then I will send them a follow-up email that says, hey, great to meet with you, and I give a little bit of recap. This is your situation. This is what's going on, just to let them know that I understand everything that's going on. I was listening. I'm up to speed. Based on that, this is what we're doing next. Here's my referral. And it's just a follow-up, right? So then if I haven't spoken to them in a couple of days and I want to get the listing or it goes cold, one of the things that I do as another follow-up after that would be my recommendations email. So I have a list of sellers that I've worked with in the past, that I've sold homes for, that I've had a great experience with. And I will send them those sellers. I'll tell them the home that I sold with them. I'll give them a link to that website of their custom website of the home that I sold for them. And I will give them that seller's contact information to call that seller and ask them about their experience working with me. So that they, have a real live person that and these are legitimate people that I've asked, can I give your phone number out? And I have a lot of these people that are willing to do it. Because if the house is in LA, I'm not going to give them a Westlake Village seller. I'm going to give them another LA seller and vice versa. And that's it. And then if I don't get it, then I just give up.
Dude, I love that you were talking about following up. So I think the recap email is so important because you could be on exactly the same page when you leave their house that day. And then overnight, it's just, black holes just come in and they are totally, they don't remember anything. And so having that recap, it is for you too. If you have a really detailed recap email where it's like, hey, so great meeting you. Here's what's next. Boom, 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 boom. They can print that out, put it on their freaking fridge. You can refer to it later and have your own checklist. And then I thought you're smooth about, withholding a little bit the net sheet. So that way you have a reason to follow up. Good tips.
For sure. It's the same thing in an open house. I have, the agents on my team will hold our open houses and they'll say, what is this? What is that? And they're rushing to get answers from me. And I'm like, listen, get their contact information. I said, that does two things. It does more than two things, but the first thing it does is it checks their motivation, right? If they want to know something, but they're not willing to give you their contact information to follow up with them after the open house, then they don't really care. And they're not interested in the house. They're just being nosy and a pain in the butt and asking questions that they don't care about. If they really care, they'll give you their contact information. So the second thing it does is it gets you legit, real contact information because you're adding value. The best way to get contact information in an open house is to give them a reason to give you contact information, not say, hey, thanks for walking in my open house and existing. Do you mind giving me every form of communication that you use so that I can harass you on it for the next month? That doesn't work, right?
No.
And then the other thing is it gives you a reason to follow up because, what are all the memes on Instagram now? I'm a real estate agent. I'm just following up, right? That's all we do is we say, hey, I'm Davis. I'm just following up. Do you still want to buy a house? How many people are you going to convert doing that? Hey, this is Davis. It was so nice to meet you at the property on Apache Street today. It was cool to meet your kids. Hopefully, you enjoyed the house. I just want to follow up with you and answer any other questions that you may have. But the one that you did have about the dishwasher, I was able to find out XYZ, Did you have anything else that I could help you with? Oh, hey, by the way, there's another property down the street on, Red Sale that might be of interest to you. Would you like me to tell you more about it? It's not on the market yet and nobody knows about, whatever. It gives you an opportunity to have that conversation with somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you said it earlier, the line of, would it be helpful if? It is such a good line. It's the best line because no one's gonna be like, no, that would not be helpful if you track down all the information that I want and give it to me. For sure. Of course it's helpful. Yes.
Right. And then, they're signing off on it. So when you send them that or you call them with that information, you're not blindsiding them. It's not like, oh, who is this guy? It's like, oh, cool. He's following through on what he said he would do that I agreed for him to do for me.
And then it gives them you go up one bar of trust. They're like, oh, he did what he said he was going to do,
Right. Exactly. So yeah.
Yeah.
Piece of cake.
Okay. Piece of cake. Easy. So Davis, what does the future hold? What do we not hit on that you really wanted to? And what does the future hold for you?
We went deep. Was that good?
Dude, this is exactly what I wanted. I wanted very tangible, tactical, step by step, and we did it. Nailed it.
All right, cool. Nailed it.
That was a high five.
So
yeah, we're watching on YouTube.
Anything else? I don't know. Again, Shelby, I'm not a podcast guy. I'm not an international guy. I'm just a regular dude with a real estate team trying to make a buck to take care of my family. And I love your guys' podcast. So it was exciting to come on here. And even before we met, I was I listen to these, and you've got like, John, the life coach, and, Billy, who sells 47,000 units and makes $8 million a year. I'm like, oh, wow, cool. Like we do 50 million in GCI. Like I thought that was good. And then I listened to the podcast. I'm like, oh, we're like scrubs over here.
No, dude.
So, but no, for me, like what the future holds is, I'm in my late 30s and I love real estate, but, I don't love everything about this business. I love to mentor. I love to train agents. I love people, and I love working with people that want to work with me. Ultimately, like, to be totally honest with you, I don't love working cold deals. I don't like making cold phone calls. I like working with my sphere. I like getting coffee with people that I care about. I like getting lunch with, having dinner with people that I care about, building relationships. One of the things I love more than anything is watching agents, quit their day job to become, and become successful, legitimate, full-time real estate agents, like killing it, growing their families, supporting their families, like building a wealthy lifestyle, not only financially, but also, mentally and spiritually. And all those things is like a true blessing to me. So there's so much more. Like, do I want to be in real estate, in the trenches in 5 years? No, not really. Will I be? Maybe. Where else can you make the crazy amount of money that we can make doing what we do? It's such a unique business. And so I don't know what the future holds, but I love your story, and stuff like that is super inspirational to me. And, just like, I'm always turned. So this year, like, we started a property management. I opened a brokerage solely for property management. So we're doing that. We're doing a lot of short-term property management. We're doing, I've got a flip on the market that I did. I've done a handful of those through my career. They're like, it's fun. It's just something that keeps you busy. My wife gets involved with it a little bit. I know you own 80 rentals or something. I'm involved in that too. So we'll see where things go. How many do you own?
Well, at my most, I owned 74, but I did sell off a chunk. So I have 46 now.
Why did you sell them?
Because it was the top of the market, and I scrubbed my portfolio, and I was like, what units are underperforming, and which ones look better on paper than they do in reality? What ones are my headaches? And so the timing worked really well to offload the ones that I was like, I don't need you in my life anymore. Because there's this, when I first got into real estate investing, I was like, I want all the doors. I want, as much as possible. But then you learn that more is not always better. Baby. Bigger pockets, baby. That's right. Yeah. And then I'm like, wait. Actually, I care about my lifestyle. And there's an ego play to it too. When people are like, oh, 100%. I have 100 doors. I'm like, who cares if it's not providing you the lifestyle that you want,
For sure. So let me ask you a couple of questions. I'm flipping the script on you. So,
okay. I was going to wrap up, Davis.
No, okay. You don't get off that easy. So, do you self-manage all of them?
No, I don't manage any of them.
They're all standard long-term rentals?
They are now. So during that period where I was analyzing my portfolio and I sold off a chunk, I, at my peak, had 18 Airbnbs, short-term rentals, and 4 I didn't own. 4 were arbitrages, rental arbitrages.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But after I sold off a chunk, then I re-looked, and then I decided to shut down my short-term rentals because they were really, really good when I first got into short-term rentals in 2019. And then between 2019 and the beginning of 2022, huge change. Like, the market was incredibly saturated and they just weren't bringing in the same amount of money. And when I did the analysis, the fact that the rental rates had increased so much over that same time period, I was like, it's not worth it.
The game is changing on short terms.
Yeah.
Well,
depending on your market, but yeah.
It's total, like, we do them. We have a handful of them that we manage. And the funny thing is like, you don't even need a broker's license in California to do those, but to do long-term management, you do. So, but we do also, we do all sorts of the rentals, but we're in a unique market where you wouldn't think that there's much demand for it, but there is, and there's just not a lot of supply of them. But it's I definitely think if we look back in 10 years, it's going to be a totally different landscape on short-term rentals.
Yeah, I agree.
Where are your rental properties?
So the majority are in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I have a couple in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I have one in DuPont, Washington State.
Where do you live?
I live in Lexington, Kentucky now. I moved here a couple months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I was
where?
I was in North Carolina, in Fayetteville, where the majority of my portfolio is. I was there for years. That's where I sold a bunch of real estate. I was also in the military. So that's why I was stationed at Fort Bragg and then got out.
I love that about you.
Yeah. Army things.
All the things I do like. Okay, I have one more question. Are you ready?
One more, and then we're wrapping up. This is my show, damn it.
I don't care. What did you? So then, like, what did you do? You know, obviously, did you just pay the taxes and go into the equities market, or what did you do? Did you read, like, you know? I don't know. I'm curious. And along with that question, what's in the future for you?
Yeah. So what I did is I paid off my primary in full, which, I mean, I might decide to take that money out and do something with it. There's so many schools of thought. You know, when I originally got into investing, it was like leverage, you know, good debt, all of those things, which I still believe in. Obviously, I have you know, but there are, you know, benefits coming with just having things completely paid off and not having any, I don't know, like being really light. So to explain more. So I was also, during my years, I ran a real estate team and I had a lot of overhead every single month. And there's something that comes along with having that mass amount of overhead where you almost get into a cycle of like, am I working to pay for my overhead, you know, in a way? And so when I shut down the team, I kind of carried that idea of what I didn't want into my personal life, which was I want a really light personal life. I want to enjoy everything that I have on my plate. I want to wake up and fucking love what's on. Oops, I'm not supposed to curse. Love what's on my calendar.
You're getting passionate.
I do. I want to feel energized and I want to feel light. I don't want what I thought that I did in a lot of ways. And so, I mean, I this is a whole conversation. Like I had a whole like reset in my outlook and changed a lot of things. So anyway, that's some of what I did with the money. I have some other things that I've been dabbling with, but what's ahead for me? I'm loving podcasting. It is so fun. I want to get really good at it. I want to make this podcast amazing. I want to get it really good on YouTube too. Like I'm doing a lot of research on, which is what listener, you should freaking go check out YouTube, working on it. Yeah. With like the thumbnails and the titles and, you know, trying to get that click through rate up. It's just a really fun game. It's a really fun game. So that, but podcasting and then 5 Pillars Nation, which is my community. And I have one other.
Your EXP, right?
It is EXP, but we do have a membership option for people who are not drinking the Kool-Aid of EXP, which is totally fine. You don't have
mentorship, coaching, that type of thing. I did my deep dive on you. Don't worry. Yeah,
it is that. But what I'm working on next, this is like, dude, you asked, so it's coming soon.
Tell me, I want to know. That's why I asked.
Hyper elite mastermind. So this is what I see. Okay. When I look out in the world of real estate, I see a lot of quote unquote masterminds from gurus. They're like top down. Most of the people aren't even in real estate anymore. And it's like coaching, but they call it a mastermind. Like, come on, together, we're all learning. But it's really one person who's like telling everyone else whatever they did to be successful. So what I think that we're missing, I haven't been able to find it yet in the agent world, is a really high qualification. You have to meet, you know, GCI transactions, top tier interview to get in. And then once you're in, it's a peer group. So it's not top down. There's not a guru telling. It's literally the only people in there are also other killers who had to qualify to get in. And then there are the killers. It's like a group led mastermind.
I love that.
It's going to be really cool. I'm very excited.
So like my whole business is based on like I gave Terry a shout out. She's the only form of coach that I've never been like a hardcore coaching, or I have mentors and different people that I respect, but like my business is like, I'm going to grab this and 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 all these different things. And then I'm going to build it around me. And then I'm going to put my own spin on it. And then that's who I am, is I'm a version of 60 other people that I'm just a little piece of from all of them. And stuff like that is like so cool to do, be a part of, like groups like that.
Totally agree. Yeah. That's it, Davis. Question number 1, wrap up. What is your favorite app or tool?
Follow Up Boss, like no brainer.
No brainer. What events are you going to in the next 12 months?
So I'm going to the Leading RE event in Las Vegas at the Wynn. It's like, when is it? It's like, is it still January? Yeah, February, the end of next month. And I'm like, so where am I?
Same.
I'm going to that. That's a cool event. It's also at the Wynn, and I love to gamble. Sorry, guys, but that's a reason. Also, I'll probably be going to the Follow Up Boss event. Speaking of which, good segue. Towards the end of the year, I haven't been. I've come this close, which is if those of you not watching, I've come really close to going to that event multiple years. And this year, I think I'm finally going to pull the trigger and get over there, because I'm a power Follow Up Boss user. And if you don't have a CRM, you're out of your mind.
Totally.
And I love Follow Up Boss. I just don't love that they got bought by Zillow, but I'm working through that. So
working through it. Okay, Davis, how can listeners help you in your business, and where can they find you?
Oh, that's a great question. I love connecting with other professionals. You can find me on Instagram. I personally enjoy Instagram the most myself. It's Davis_Bartels is my personal page, and at Davis Bartels Real Estate is my professional page. And look me up online. Give me a call. I don't know, if you want to talk about something, you want to collaborate. It's all good. Just don't, nothing weird. All right.
Yeah. Don't try to sell them Bitcoin.
But I don't have any book deals. I don't have anything special. I'm just, I'm just a fan of Shelby. So I love being on this show.
Oh my God. Stop. Okay. Listeners, you heard it. Go follow him, shoot him a DM, all the love. Find him on Google and give him a 5-star review. That's what you should do. I'll say that. Or send your referrals to Davis. Which areas do you cover?
That's the one. So Los Angeles County, Ventura County, we do a ton of deals, interagent. So if you have someone coming, going, any of that stuff. And we also refer a lot of deals out, because if you haven't heard, everyone's leaving California, and we're sending a lot of outbound referrals as well. So we do reciprocate.
Cool. I got you on what the listeners need to do.
Thank you. Yeah, I told you. This is like, I'm not doing many podcasts. So, you gotta help me out here, girl.
I got you. And listeners, come hang out with me and the owner of the show. We are The Shelby Show and Aaron Amuchis-Daggy on Instagram. We want to chat with you. So hit us up and send us feedback as always. And Davis, thank you so much for coming on the show. And Real Estate Rockstars, thanks for listening.